Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hello Dave with Down to Earth Astronomy. So let's take a look at what's been going on in Elite. I think the most interesting news from last week is the fact that Core Dynamics has finally brought Lakon. So Lakon, of course, being the ship manufacturer behind ships like the Asp series of ships, the Diamondbacks, all the types, so Type 6, 7, 9, Type 10 Defender, and also all the Alliance ships. They have now been brought up by Core Dynamics, which of course is owned by the Federation. This makes some very interesting lore, because what does this mean for the Alliance? It's not that long ago that the Alliance got their own lineup of ships made by Lakon, but now all of a sudden Lakon is owned by the Federation. So does that mean that every time the Alliance is buying a new ship, they're effectively paying money to the Federation? This puts them in a very peculiar situation, especially if hostilities were to break out between the Federation and the Alliance. Then all of a sudden the Alliance can be cut off from their ships, lore-wise, of course. But of course this opens up for possibilities that we're going to see hybrids between the traditional combat Core Dynamics ship and the more exploration industrial focused Lakon. Because if we look at the lineup from Core Dynamics, they have stuff like the Eagle, the Vulture, and the whole Federation, like the dropship, gunship, the corvettes, all those ships there. So they are very combat focused in their lineup of ships. And again, as we talked about Lakon, like the Explorers, both the Asp and Diamondback, they have the Type ships. And they have a few combat-oriented ships in forms of the few Alliance ships. But having those two merge, I think, could maybe mean we're going to see some combat-focused, exploration or transport ships. So like having it's not just full-on cargo, but it can carry a lot of cargo, but it also can hold itself in a fight. I don't know. Something along those lines would be interesting to see. But at least I'm pretty sure that this probably means that we're going to see some new ships coming, and it's probably going to be something that's going to come, maybe not at launch with Odyssey, but doing some lore development along the way. Now, if we step away from the lore and look at it from a metagaming perspective, Frontier has said that they are not planning to remove any ships from the game. So for those of you as a player who think, oh, does that mean that I all of a sudden can't go out and buy any of the ships from Lakon? No, that's not the case. You will still be able to buy the ships. They're not going to be changed. They're going to be available just as they are today. That's all going to stay the same. So for now, this is purely a lore thing that I think Frontier will be using to announce new ships and to kind of make hybrids between some of the two different ship manufacturers. Frontier have also had one of these Q&A threads where people can ask questions, so they announce this ahead of time. You can sit on the forum, you can ask questions in a thread, and Frontier will then spend like 1-2 hours answering questions. And as always, there's always a lot of questions that they can't answer or not allowed to answer. So there's a lot of these, we'll get back to you on that or more on that later kind of answers that we can't really use for a whole lot. But there was an answer to the question on how the transition is going to be from in cockpit to on foot when Odyssey launches. This is of course a topic that has been debated a lot, especially after the first dev diary where they said we're going to have this Armstrong moment. In my mind, that means we're not just going to spawn on the surface, because then you don't really have that moment where you feel like I'm taking the first step onto this completely unexplored planet if you just suddenly materialize into existence. And it would also look really, really weird for other people standing around the ship if you just all of a sudden just spawn out of nowhere. I don't think that's how it's going to work, but what they did say in the forum thread was that it's going to be similar in the way that it works with SRVs. Now SRVs of course is fade to black, and then you spawn in the SRV while it's being lowered down. So to me this probably means the way that on foot, like the transition from ship to on foot is going to work is basically you're going to go down to your lower panel, just as you do with your SRV, and instead of saying deploy SRV, you're just going to set exit ship or something like that. Screen's going to fade to black, and then you're going to spawn in your spacesuit, maybe as you're crawling down a ladder, and you will maybe stand on a small, part of the landing gear, like a small somewhere on the surface, and you can then take that first step onto the surface and make the first footprint on that planet. I feel like that's the way it's going to be. I think the transition that would work the best, that would be the least immersion breaking, would be get out of the chair, walk in the cockpit that we already have. They all have doors in the back. Go to one of those doors, open up to a metal box. You go into the metal box, And that's essentially a loading screen. As the elevator lowers down and it comes down to the surface, it opens up and you can then walk out of the elevator. And similarly, you just call an elevator down and it takes you up or something like that. But exactly how it's going to work, we'll have to wait until we get the first look at Odyssey in the alpha test. So regarding the live stream tomorrow, I have a ship I want to go out and test for some anti-Xeno combat. And it's not really done at this point. I still have quite a bit of work to do on it. But if it works, or if it's done, I will take that out and we'll do some anti-Xeno fighting. If it's not done yet, then I'll go out and do some exploration on my colonial and do some casual chit-chat, and that's always fun. Go and look at some crazy planets and go and explore some things. I'm not really sure where I'm going with my alt now. I might head back to colonial or something like that. Regardless, there will be a live stream tomorrow. It's going to be at 8 o'clock in-game time as usual, and it will be live streamed here on YouTube as well as on Twitch. But that's going to be it for this week. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give a like, subscribe, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.